Today we'll begin with the Docker Swarm. This is what we were learning yesterday, right? A Docker Swarm is nothing but a container orchestrator, which will help for high availability, load balancing, scaling, and with the different deployment strategies and all. But in Swarm, we will look at the basic concepts of orchestration of high availability, load balance, and scaling. The rest of the features, rest of the things with the orchestrator, we'll learn with Kubernetes because it is very widely used and far advanced tool, and also which is very efficient to handle the prod clusters, prod deployments. So that's the thing. And cluster is nothing but, I'm repeating the terminology which we discussed yesterday. Cluster is nothing but pool of Docker hosts. What is a Docker host? Docker host is nothing but a VM where Docker is installed or running. It could be an EC2 instance or a physical server or a VM where Docker is installed as a Docker host. And Swarm cluster could be created with any number of Docker hosts. In this demo today, we are going to create a cluster with 3 Docker hosts, right?
Preeti, 3 Docker host, nothing but a three node cluster, right? Hello?
Yes. So 3 node cluster, correct. You can say 3 node cluster, 3 Docker hosts, 3 Swarm cluster, 3 node Swarm cluster. Those could be VMs, but not a simple VM. VM with Docker running. That's why I'm saying pool of Docker hosts, right? And on those Docker hosts, we'll be deploying our applications. It could be address book or else it could be PHP-DB. When you deploy PHP-DB, some PHP will be on first host, some on second or third, and so on. They are distributed across the nodes in the cluster. Right. So now we'll go and create a cluster, Swarm cluster. Before that, let me talk about Swarm architecture. Swarm architecture is very simple. You can create a Swarm cluster with any number of Docker hosts. Today, we are going to create with 3 nodes. Out of that, one node should be acting as a manager node. Other nodes will be called as a worker nodes. Manager node is the decision maker. Like how many containers should be running on worker 1, how many to be on worker 2, all of that would be taken, the decisions would be taken care by the manager. You can say leader, right? And other two means you can run containers on all the nodes. Let's say PHP containers, some PHP, okay, some DB. You deploy them as service will be distributed across available Docker hosts, whatever. So this is how it works. You can run containers on all the 3 nodes, but always the best practice is run the workload only on the worker nodes. Leave the manager or keep the manager as a dedicated manager, which will take care of the entire load of the cluster. Which will take care of the decisions of the cluster. Let's suppose, okay, I need, how many are there? Okay, let's say I need 5 PHP containers and blue ones are DB, let's say. 4 DB containers. If this was present, let's suppose for some reasons, this is crashed, this EC2 instance is terminated, gone, lost. What may happen? It will keep the same number. How it will keep the same number? By starting 3 more PHP here, correct? And 2 more DB here, making the number available. Again, there were 5 and 4 because all of this got terminated. We'll go through one by one, but now just understand Swarm cluster can have any number of nodes, out of which one should be acting as a manager node, others as worker. How will be act as manager? We have to create the cluster. We have to make some of them as a manager and others as a workers. Good to go? So now let's create the cluster first. Means first of all, I need 3 Docker hosts, means 3 instances. See, I just have created 3 fresh instances just today at 7 o'clock. These are fresh instances, 557, I have created them. Okay, they are just VMs. Now I want to install Docker, but just to keep it clear, I just want to make one as a manager. It's not yet manager, we have to make it. Okay, this will be one of the worker nodes. This will be the other worker node. Right now, first, these are VMs. How to make Docker host? How to create
We need to install Docker on it.
install and start Docker. So let's do that. So this is master. Install Docker. Meanwhile, let me connect with other instances as well. Sorry. Okay. Let me go for worker one. Master node is ready. Let's get the other node. This is worker node. To differentiate this, I'll give a different background color for worker nodes. We will not run anything on worker nodes. Remember, only get it started. That's all. So this is worker one. Let's get to other worker node. Worker two. Let's keep it dark shade. Okay, just to identify worker one, worker two, or else let me put some other color. Okay. This is worker two, green one. So white terminal is the master, right? It's ready. This is the worker one, even this is ready, means 3 Docker hosts are ready. Are the colors legible? Is it comfortable to see the screens? Are you good?
Yes, Preeti.
Font is visible on this, legible on this, right? Okay. Okay. So now 3 Docker hosts are ready. Let's create a Swarm cluster. How do you create a Swarm cluster? Listen here carefully, please. We will not install Swarm separately. You don't need to install Swarm separately. You will be having Swarm already installed with the latest versions of Docker. You have to just initialize Swarm. That's all. So what is meant by initializing Swarm? Hello, please keep muted, everyone. Okay. So on the master, you have to start the swarm. Let's get the IP, private IP of the master. Come here. Docker swarm init. On master, you have to run this command. Means whichever node you want to make as a manager on that node, Docker swarm init means it will start a swarm with this particular node as a master if you run the command. Let us run this command. So it says, yes, swarm is initialized. Current node is now a manager. Current node became manager. To add any more worker nodes, this is the command you need to run on that worker node, and they will be connecting on this port 2377. This port should be open on the manager. Let me add the port like inbound rules. I'm adding all the traffic because they need to be communicated and will open the browser. So I'm just opening all the things. Okay. So yeah, I have initialized the swarm. Now swarm is initialized, this become a manager. But how do you see Docker node ls? Docker node ls will show you that particular node active and leader like manager. Yes. Now run this token on any other worker nodes, means any other node you want to add to the cluster. This is the one I want. See, this node joined a swarm as a worker. If you do node ls commands or any commands should be executed from master on manager only. On the worker node, we'll just make the connectivity. That's all, nothing else. So node ls. See, second node got added and it says not leader, means it's a worker node. Now again take this token, run on the second worker node. Again, it says this node joined a swarm as a worker. Let's go and see. Perfect. 3 node swarm cluster is created. Are we good? Appreciate quick responses. If you are good,
Yes, ma'am.
right.
Yes, ma'am.
So cluster is ready. Now, I want to deploy some containers. So in a swarm cluster, you will deploy the containers as a services. In Swarm also, sorry, in Compose also. Do you remember we created services like, 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, if you remember in Compose also we created service names. We gave name as web service, then MySQL service. In web service, we need 2 replicas. Means you can imagine service like an entity or a holder which will have replicas of the particular configuration, right? Here also we'll start anything as a service, right? Okay. So
Normally, we won't use composers in our projects.
we'll come to that at the end. Please remind me. Like I said yesterday, we will use it for smaller environments, for dev environment, lower environments, dev environments, test environments, and also smaller projects where we don't need high availability and all. We'll use Compose just to test in one server, one Docker host. You may go for Compose.
Okay.
Not prod and for critical deployments. Okay. So coming back, I'm on master. Now on this master, let's create the service. Like I want to deploy some container. Docker service create. These are the commands. Docker service create, name of the service. Like yesterday in Compose, we created web or PHP, whatever. So I'm giving name as my service. I just want to show you how it works, and I want to deploy some simple image, Nginx image. That's all. And I want to do port forwarding as well. port forwarding to 8001 on 80 of Nginx. So now listen carefully. It will create a service. Service means an entity, a bag which will hold the containers. Similar means same replicas of the container can be held. I'm not giving any number, means it will create one Nginx in this service and 80 of Nginx. Earlier we learned this is the container port. This is the host port. But now which host? Are you following? Now if I run that command, will it start a container on worker node, on worker 2? Will it start here or here or here? Also, if you do port forwarding, is it 8001 on master? Is it here or on worker node? Am I making sense? Will it be forwarded to which node?
Yeah,
Isn't it?
all the nodes
So
will
whenever
be
you create
replicated.
this, yeah, whenever you create this service, it can be deployed anywhere. You are not telling where to run, right? It will be taken, that decision will be taken care by the Swarm cluster on which node it should run the container. And suppose, let's say it started on worker 1. Even though it started on worker 1, you could access it on manager node on 8001 on worker 2. Even though it's running on worker 1, you can still access that on port of every node in the cluster. Means that's called cluster wide port. It's not called host port here. It's called cluster wide port. That's the beauty of clustering. Because they are connected in the cluster, this port will be open across all the nodes in the cluster. Let me show you what I mean. Let me run this. It should create a service. It will pull this Nginx image. It will start a service. Okay, so now proper service ls. So it's replicated. It's one replica is having the issue. 80 is forwarded to 8001. And then Docker service ps my service. Okay, this is how it is. See, it's running. You can see the service list replicated because one replica, because we did not mention the replica name and Nginx image, a container. See, .1 means first replica started on this particular node. 11.5 means which one? Let's see, is it on which node? Okay. It's on worker 2. Got it? Yeah. See, if you have a container, what is the command to check the container?
Docker container.
Docker PS. On
Yes.
master, it's not there. Actually, in real time, we'll never log into worker nodes. Again, I'm repeating just for our understanding to show you, I have launched 3 of them and going there and checking like this. Then how do you check? See, it's on worker node. You will check this way only. Here you are seeing it's on worker 2, that's all. But for your clarity, I'm showing you. Okay. So it's on worker. Okay, fine. It's on worker 2. Now we forwarded it, right? So let's get the IP address of the worker node, worker 2, hit that on 8001. Perfect. How about worker 1? It's not on worker 1, but can we access here or not?
We can access from any node.
Actually, we have.
Inbound role. Inbound.
We have to access. We can access it. That's the point of clustering. 8001. Yeah. Worker one, security, inbound rules, all the ports were added. Okay. Like in master, all the ports were added. It should be coming up actually. So it's not showing up here. It may take some time, but yes, it will be working on all the ports. This is the simple concept of creating a service and deploying it across the nodes. Now, first, let's see, we have to look into these three concepts, right? Like we discussed, first we'll see the basic concepts in Swarm, like high availability. Okay, first we'll start with scaling. Second, we'll start with load balancing of containers on the cluster, because load balancing has a wider meaning of containers in the cluster. Then high availability. First, let's start with scaling. Scaling is depending on your business requirements, you may have to scale out, increase the instances of your PHP or DB as per the business requirement. So now one replica, let's say I just want to start multiple replicas. Let's say 5 replicas. How do you do that? Simply Docker service scale my service equal to 5. That's all. See, 5 replicas are being started. And where are those running? Somewhere, what? Okay. Docker service PS. Okay, first let's do service LS. See, 5 by 5 replicas are ready. And service PS. See, now it will show you, it's showing you all the 3 nodes. Can you see that? It's showing all the 3 nodes. This is 11, 5, 623, 9, 14. Can you see all the 3 nodes are seen? Means they were distributed across all the 3 nodes in the cluster. If you do Docker PS, 2 nodes on master, sorry, 2 containers on master, 1 on worker node, another 2 here, total 5. Got it? Are we good?
Yes, Preeti.
Actually, this should be working. Hmm. Somehow on the same browser, it's taking some time. If we run in a new Cognito window, it's working though. Okay. Anyway, it's okay. See, you can see this here. All right. So coming back, yes, this is scaling up. Let's say I want to scale up further to 10. See, 5 out of 10, it was scaling up. Service LS will show 10 by 10 replicas. Service PS, see, they were shared. My 1.1. My service, I told you, it's like a bag or entity which will hold all the replicas. See, dot 1 dot and 10 replicas on master 3. Whatever be this, this ratio is irrelevant to you. 4 here, total 7. Here you have 3, right? Total 10. Understood? So total 10 containers are running across the 3 nodes. Perfect. If you want to scale down, similarly, put the number, that's all. It will scale down and scale up in the same way. Docker service LSC, only 5 replicas. Docker service PS, my service, 5 replicas. If you want to see Docker PS, 2 here. one here, and there are two here, total 5. Are we good? And now, this is about scaling. Okay, everything I'm running from master. If you observe the white terminal, let's say I have 10. You could be any number. It could be any number. Just to see with the clarity, I'm just making it 10. Okay, now service PS, they were shared across, right? One last time. Let's confirm how many on this manager node. 3, 4, 7, 10. Okay, now they were distributed across this way. What happens to some manager node? What happens to any node? Let's say a node got shut down or crashed, worker 1 got terminated. I can go to the EC2 console, I can shut down that or delete it or whatever, or else just stop it, whatever. Then those containers will be stopped automatically, right? But then what happens? I need 10. What may happen? I should have 10. So what should we do? In that case, right, first let's see what happens. You don't need to do anything. For our demo purpose, I may just go to the console and stop some worker node, right? Or else what I can do is another option I have is I can drain any particular node. Drain means node will be running. Okay, every node will be running, but I could remove it from taking the load. Means I could put it off from taking the load. You can drain the node. Drain the node means node is running, node is up and running, but it will not take any load. Any load here means it will not take any containers. By the way, this is high availability. Before going to the high availability, let me highlight one more thing here. We have already looked into this load balancing. Correct? Scaling we have seen, they were distributed across the 3 nodes, right? Which is nothing but load balancing of containers in the cluster. Isn't it? Those 10 are shared across. We did not give any instructions on how many should be running on which node, right? That is all taken care by the swarm cluster depending on the health of the cluster and so many other factors. We did not do anything here. So first 2 points are covered. Is this much clear for all of you?
Yes, please.
Now let's talk about the third factor, high availability. High availability means let's suppose some node is removed, so terminated or crashed, or else for our demo, we can also, or else in reality also you can drain a node. Drain means node will be active and running, but it will not take any load. Like in case of maintenance, when some upgrades might be happening, some patches might be applied during that state, instead of taking the node down, it could be drained so that it will not take any load. So I may drain worker 1 or worker 2. Later on, I can bring it active. And the best practice is now containers are running on manager also, right? In the beginning, I told you best practice is don't run the load on manager. Keep it a dedicated node so that it wouldn't take any load. Keep it as a dedicated manager so that it wouldn't take any load. Means I will drain the manager here. You may drain any node, but you should bring it active later. But manager, I want to drain it permanently. Am I making sense? So as of now on manager, you have 3. They should be started somewhere. Let's see. Drain the node. How do you do that? Docker node update. This availability you are seeing, right? This availability column should be updated. Docker node update availability drain that particular host name. Actually, master's host name is 23. See this one actually. Draining the manager for the best practices. You may drain any other node during patches, upgrades, and so on. So manager is drained. Means what happens to the containers? Docker service, PS, my service. Do you see? Whichever replicas are manager. See, 23 is manager node. It is shut down, means replica 2 is shut down. And it started, you see this arrow, it got started on some other node in the cluster. Similarly, fifth replica, which is on manager, is shut down and started on another node 14, 9.14. Ninth replica is on manager. It got started on 11:15. Now, if you see on manager, there wouldn't be any containers. But on the worker node, how many? 5. On worker 2, another 5. Making 10. Understood now? What may happen to any node in the cluster? Load will be distributed across other availability nodes, making it high available. Of course, let's say there is no resources, no CPU memory to run 5 here. Then in that case, it may fail. But if you have enough resources for your containers, it will make sure to run that. Are we good and clear?
Yes, Preeti.
This is what is meant by high available. I have drained it. You may shut down, but don't shut down manager. You can shut down worker nodes, because if manager node goes down, entire cluster will go down. It's like a leader or a parent or whatever you call it. If you shut down this, don't shut down. You can drain the manager, but don't shut down. Other nodes, yeah, you may shut down later on, bring and add it back. You can do. You may remove from the cluster. You can later add again to the cluster. You can do that. Docker service ls 10 replicas service PS my service. Okay, 10 replicas are there.
Preeti, what is the command for shutdown?
Just go to
You
the
just
console and you shut down, right? Go here and shut down the node.
okay. I
Stop
got
means stop and it shut down. Terminate means it would be gone permanently.
okay.
Later on, when you bring it back, you don't need to add again to the cluster. If you remove it from the cluster, then you have to add it back.
Okay, if you shut down the things, it automatically disconnected. These containers will be shifted to the other.
No, these
Is
containers will be stopped. New containers, new replica, that's a replica means copy. Same configuration
okay.
will be started. It will not be shifting them. It will terminate them there and it will start the same number of replicas on another node.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
At any point of time, if you want to retrieve the token, this is the command. Docker swarm join, because later on you may add more nodes. Join token worker. You will get the token at any point of time later. You can remove the cluster node. How do you remove? Docker node remove the host name. I'm not doing it, right? The host name of the node, so that it will be removed from the cluster. If you want, that's how you should remove. Okay. So is this much clear, all the 3 factors?
What is the main purpose of draining one node?
Draining means it will be running, but it will not take any load. Generally, you drain during maintenance, upgrades, you may drain a node so that it will not take any containers.
Yeah.
And
What's its purpose?
it will put the node off from taking any load. It will not allow that node to run any containers further.
In any case of if any other worker node fails, will it take the load of other worker nodes?
It will not, because it is in the drained state. If you want it to take, you shouldn't drain it or bring the node back.
Only then you use it for only administrative purpose.
administrative purpose. And the second thing is master should be always in a drained state. It should be only a dedicated node to take the decisions.
So in any case, if any worker node fails, other worker node has to take the load of other failed worker nodes.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah. See, I'm bringing the node active back. I have node update availability active. Now it's back. Means it can take the load now. But always the best practice is keep it in drained state. Are we good with the 3 basic container orchestrator features? Can I proceed for the next part?
Yes,
Right.
okay.
So let me run a new command, Docker network ls. Sorry. Okay. So Docker network ls will show you all the network, Docker networks. Bridge, host, none are available earlier also. Whenever you are running Docker in standalone mode, like till yesterday also, these are already default networks. Okay. What I mean is there are 3 default networks available: bridge network, host network, none network. Till now, whatever containers you are running till yesterday, all those containers by default goes to a bridge network. Bridge network means your containers will be in a separate network. Your host will be in a separate network. Your containers will be running on a separate private isolated network for security reasons. That's why if you are running anything there, like if you are running anything inside the containers, they cannot be accessed from the host. Right? That's why it's called bridge network. By default, everything goes in here. That's the best one. Host means if you choose hostnet, means how do you choose the networks? Like whenever you do Docker run, we are using P flag, V flag, same network flag, and put network name, bridge or whatever. Right? That's how you choose the network. Otherwise, everything goes to bridge, which is perfect, which is best use. Host means your containers and the host means your EC2 will be in the same network. So no need of port forwarding. Everything can be accessed directly, whichever in container and all. None network means no network. Means if you want to run some routine jobs, you don't want to access anything from the container, you may go for none, which are very rarely used. Bridge network is very widely used. Okay. Now, whenever you start swarm init, another 2 networks will be created in addition, which is called ingress. This is of type overlay network, and the other network is Docker GW bridge. These are created by default and all your containers will be going into this ingress overlay in swarm mode. So which one is used in swarm mode? Ingress overlay. What does it mean? Let me tell you. Let's suppose you have 3 hosts. Okay. Every host will have its own network. Am I correct? This will have its own network. This will have its own network. 3 easy to install. Like they were having 3 networks. And now let's say I have a PHP container here. Some PHP, some PHP, some DB. Okay, let's say initially using it has got the intelligence that this PHP will be communicating with this on preference. That's a preferred. Let's say there are no DB here. Then this one should communicate with the container on another node, correct? So this communication of containers across the host should happen. How this will happen? It will happen because every host will have its own host network, its own network, right? The small part is its own network. Now, there will be one add-on or top-up above that, which is called ingress overlay network, which runs on top of this network. This ingress overlay will be connected to this host network using Docker GW bridge. Docker GW bridge is like a wire which connects host network with ingress overlay. Ingress overlay is like a top up or a layer above the host specific networks so that it enable communicates between containers across the Docker host. Just I'm explaining in layman terms. You don't need to learn networking and all for this. If this much is clear, that's enough. Understood this? Okay, I'm repeating. Every host will have its own network, right? And containers on different hosts should communicate means there will be a top up, a layer called ingress overlay. And this ingress overlay will be connected to the host specific network using another wire called Docker GW bridge, thereby tell us containers on different hosts to communicate. In our case, till now, we just run Nginx. But what if you run two services like a DB and PHP? Isn't it? They should communicate. So you will be, they will be by default communicating because of this at the back end. Am I clear?
So for every easy, if we create any easy to host, easy to host, it is automatically connected to ingressive overlay.
Not every host, when you create them in the swarm, see, earlier these two will not be there. Ingress and
Okay.
when you started in Swarm, this is created. These two are created. Means every host is connected to the ingress via this Docker GW bridge, thereby allowing containers on different hosts to communicate. Now I'll start different services and show you how they are communicating. Good to go?
Yeah.
What I'll do is by default, everything goes into Docker GW, but everything goes into ingress. You may see here. Let's go to some container, Docker PS, Docker inspect 2A6. Do you see here? It's in the ingress overlay, right? So yes, by default, they goes here. Now what you will do, you have to start two services. Docker service ls, like you have this one service, my service, will start PHP web service. They'll again go to ingress and they'll communicate by default. But let's assume, I'm just going a bit advanced here. You don't need to demo all of that because this is less used. Just in case if you need at any point of time, you can come back to the video and learn or recollect from here. Suppose I have let's say I have let's say I have PHP DB. I want them to communicate. For this application, I have some JavaScript or some other service also. Let's say some front end, some other from some message queue service is there. Like let's say Kafka service. Okay, I don't want Kafka to communicate with PHP. But if you just create them as it is, all of that goes into the same network and they're open for communication. One reason is you can't control the communication. Second thing is, if you put everything in the same network, if there is any network failover, again, it may not work. All the services may fail. So always the best practice is whichever services you want to communicate, like PHP DB, should be in one network. Kafka should be in another ingress network. Means you can create your own network. You can create multiple ingress networks which are of type overlay. Whichever networks you want to communicate, put them in the same network. Whichever services you don't want to communicate, put them in a separate network. Am I making sense? How do you create a network, by the way? First, I'll clear the existing service. Docker. Just a second. Okay. So now everything is going into this, right? Going into ingress, default ingress. But if you want to create a network, you can do that. Docker network, create name of the network. Sorry, Docker network create driver -d. Driver means this one. Which type of network? Is it bridge? It's ingress, so it's of type overlay O1. So if you see network name is O1, type is overlay network created. Now, whenever you start a service, like a Docker service, create name is, let's say, okay, new service. Okay, and again, I'm placing it on Nginx. I just want to show the network. Oh, sorry. I did not mention the, sorry. I did not mention the network. If I don't mention the network, it will go to ingress. So let's say another service, new service one, Nginx. Use the network flag, network O1, so that it will go to your own network. I just want to show you how do you put it in your own network. Detected task failure. Docker service ls. First, let me clean up. Might be space issue. Docker service RM means it will remove everything. My service, remove it. Also, new service one also remove it. New service also let's remove. Now let's create it. New service. Create name Nginx. I think network flag usage is incorrect. 1 second. It should be here. Network on. Oh. Okay, now it's created. Docker PS, it's not here. Okay, Docker service, new service. Oh, sorry, new service. Docker service PS, new service. Okay, it's on 14. 14 is, okay, it's here. Now Docker inspect 5455. Do you see it is this time in O1, not an ingress? Means that's how you can control the networks. You can choose on which network your containers should go. Whichever services you want to communicate, you can put them in a same network, and this is always best practice rather than putting onto O1. Now you know what to do, right? Can you do this as a homework? Name web image name is our PHP image which we developed yesterday, right? First start this, then start again the same way, like same command with the SQL image name in the same network, and see they are communicating. That's all. Can you start multiple services this way and try? You understood the assignment?
Yes, yes.
So here, this time service name is SQL. Okay, here it should be SQL image. Start multiple services this way and test it. Put them in the same network and see whether they can communicate. You don't need to do additionally for it. That's a swarm. Another thing is, instead of running swarm this way, creating services manually this way, we can deploy compose file in swarm. I'll show you that. Swarm and compose working together. This is far advanced. I'll show you this. Good to go. One way. Let's suppose you have multiple services. You can also run the compose file in the swarm mode. Let's see how to do it. First, let's get the compose file. Let me create a directory. Compose. Here we need that compose file, docker compose.yml. Put that compose file. Let me get the compose file. Okay, compose file. Right. Let's copy this. Let's place the content here. Perfect. And these are private images. Correct? You got the manual thing, right? Which I have given as homework. Now I'll run this compose file in the Swarm cluster, which makes our task simple. But before that, it should be pulling images from private image. Correct? So first authenticate. Because Docker login is not there, it's asking. So how do you log in? You have to log in on all the nodes, right? So this is the command Docker login, username, and the Docker compose file name, Docker compose.yml. And you could give some Docker stack deploy, means it would be deployed as a stack, right? And then the stack name could be demo with registry auth flag. With registry auth. It's prompting for password. I don't remember password. Just a second. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Preeti.
Yes, ma'am.
You can see the screen, right? Okay. Can you see now?
No, it is stopped now.
Okay, I just stopped it to get up the password. One second. Can you see the screen? I started sharing.
No, Preeti, not it.
No.
Okay.
Now it's
I got the password and login succeeded with the same command. Okay. So it has created, do you see network, everything with the stack name? I have given that as a stack name, right? This is the command we executed. This is the command. Stack deploy, stack name is demo. So it has created network, services and all. So let's see. Of course, you can mention your network name also like O1, but I did not mention, you can also do it. Means it might have gone to Docker ingress. But if you see, here you can see as Docker stack. These are all compose and swarm commands. I mean, swarm commands when you're deploying it with compose. Stack demo. Stack demo. Services. Okay. Docker stack service demo. Okay. Services, that's all. It's a services. Alright. Right? So now you can see SQL started. This got 2 replicas which were started. If you want to again see where they were running, Docker service PS commands. Docker service PS. First service name is MySQL. It's running on 11.5 and demo web. They are running on. Do you see all of them are on different nodes? This SQL and this one are on same node, but this is on another node. If you can see here. See, one is on PHP is on master node. DB is on some other node, right? This one more PHP should be there. One PHP and SQL were here, and other SQL, other PHP. Is this PHP or SQL? Sorry, this is the other service. Just ignore it. Okay, let me remove the other services. 1 second. Docker service ls will show all of them, including the stack also. Docker service RM, new service. Okay, just to keep it clean. Now, Docker service ls and Docker PS, PHP container on master, no container on worker one, another PHP and DB here. But they should be communicating, right, on port 8001. Let's grab this. On 8001 and 8002 because it's 2 replicas. I suspect this. Let me try on the browser. 8001. Actually, it should be available on every node. Let me check on worker 2 itself or master. Nginx. It's taken from the previous one. See, it's a incognito. Try everything in incognito. Now, if I store some data, yes, perfect, right? Is that good? On 8002 also, it should be working. But maybe here it's working on only the node where it is running. But ideally, it should work on all the nodes if you have opened the traffic. Are we good? We did not do anything for them to communicate. Compose file could be deployed in the swarm mode this way. This is far advanced. If you understand, that's fine. But if you have time and if you are interested, always good to do hands-on. Any questions from anyone? I have shown you compose, running compose on the swarm, running services in a separate network. One more advantage with this swarm is swarm will create its own network, right? If you want, you can also define the networks in compose file also. Rohit, there is a question from Rohit. Ingress overlay is a part of cluster or is separate from it? Part of the cluster, Rohit. See, it's another network. Docker network ls. See, ingress is there. Now with the compose and swarm, it has created its own network with the stack name. Stack name I have given demo default overlay. This is used now. Is this much clear and good? Any questions from anyone?
Preeti, if we drain the container, means if we drain that port, so again, if we bring it up, this whatever the things in that container will be moved to already to other worker port or somewhere, right? Again, it will come back or it will stay there.
You are mixing up both containers and the node. Can you elaborate?
No.
Can you?
Node. Sorry. So if you drain our nodes,
Okay.
whatever the services running on the node, it will move to the other nodes, right?
Okay. So whenever you drain a node, it will not move the service. Service is an
That's what.
object across the cluster. So yes, whenever you drain a node, let's say on that node already a container is running, it will be stopped, terminated. It will start
Okay.
another container with the same configuration on other available nodes in the cluster.
Okay. And if we bring it up, then it will be running on the same nodes, or again it will start here also? No, right?
I did not understand. It will stop on the drained node, right? If you bring it back, it will not come automatically.
Okay, that's
If
the
you
question.
bring the node back, it will not, container will not be started there automatically. Next time when you are scaling up, then containers might be started here.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I know, like I understand you may be having a lot of questions. What if this happens and all? You can try all of that. That's always a best way to learn. Yes, you can ask me. And again, when you are doing hands-on, you may be seeing few more queries as such, right? Just try practically, stop it and see what happens, right? So start it again and see what happening. Is the container coming up? Or you can just experiment all of that so that you will get more clarity. So in the next class, we'll start with Kubernetes, the very important and the most advanced concept, the far advanced topic out of all, I would say. It could be with respect to setup or could be with the learning, but there is a lot of blackout areas in Kubernetes, which is making it complex. But if you learn it with clarity and with a proper understanding, it is very much a great tool. So we'll get started with Kubernetes in the next class. Any questions, any more you have, we can discuss on them. How is your hands-on going? Are you stuck up? Any questions? Mm. All right, then we'll close here and we'll continue tomorrow. And thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, there is a question or a message from Rahul. Without doing hands-on, it's not possible to ask questions. When we stuck somewhere, then questions arises. Okay, what I mean by any questions means from previous topics, from previous hands-ons. Expectation is that you people do the hands-on and come back and we have some time for questionnaire, like 10 or 15 minutes. We can go with those blockers during your hands-on or any queries. But I'm not seeing any questions, meaning, yeah, I don't see people doing hands-on, but which is mandatory, which is to be taken care from your end. It's something from your end. So please go through the hands-on and get back. All right, good day. Bye, everyone. Thank you all.